Welcome to the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, where it is never too early for fantasy football. My name is Jeff.
I'm Alex.
As always, thank you for downloading, listening, liking, and commenting on our podcast videos. Please join our community by subscribing to us on the socials. Our handle on all platforms is N2E Fantasy. We're also available on all major podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy. Alex, what do we have on today's show?
On this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast, we are recapping the divisional weekend game action for you guys, and we are going to get you prepped for the conference championship games. But first, here's the latest news. Jeff, what do we have first?
All right, so just updating a bit of news from last week. Charges will not be filed against wide receiver Jordan Addison, and I would not expect him to receive any league discipline as the result of trespassing accusation, I guess, because it's not charges at this point. So anything more on Jordan Addison?
I mean, do you think he's getting close to being out of the league with all the shenanigans he's pulled? I think this is the third time he's gotten in trouble.
Yeah, I think he's entering year 4 of his contract too, and I don't see how the team can pick up his 5th-year option or consider extending him at this point. So I don't really know what the end game is for Jordan Addison at this point. Does he just play on a whole bunch of 1-year prove-it deals after this?
Yeah. I mean, Minnesota has to be thinking about another wide receiver. They have to be thinking about another quarterback if McCarthy doesn't work out, or just having a veteran to compete with him. We could be seeing the beginning of the end for Kevin O'Connell there.
I mean, going 9-8 with JJ McCarthy's quarterback play this year feels like Houdini.
Yeah, but at some point, these guys are getting older on this roster. I think if I just remember at the top of my head, I think it is a relatively old roster. I mean, they're going to be closing their window soon, and they don't necessarily have a proven quarterback.
Agree there. Wouldn't be shocked to see them try to bring Daniel Jones back in. Again, don't know if that'll work or not, but we will see. Only thing I will say about Kevin O'Connell is we are, 11 months from him being named Coach of the Year, and I feel like it's premature to start talking about firing the reigning Coach of the Year stuff.
I mean, Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year twice, and he was fired by the Browns.
Yeah, but not like a year after he won it.
Still, I mean, that doesn't mean you're safe.
No, but I think O'Connell's worst year was pretty close to Stefanski's best year in Cleveland. I think that should matter as well.
Yeah, but speaking of coaching here, we have 5 coaches out of initially 9. Maybe one more we'll talk about after that, but 5 coaches have signed. The first and most prominent one, the Giants, got John Harbaugh to finally sign a contract with them. And Jeff, you didn't think it was going to happen. What do you make of this?
So we mentioned the Stefanski and Harbaugh deal. I think Harbaugh was crazy for taking the first offer because he was the first domino to fall. So he held all the chips for all the other coaches. So he should have went on a few more visits, been wined and dined, and went on these free agent visits that we hear all these free agent players go on. But he did sign. He likes Jackson Dart, and it does seem like they're going to try to make it work there.
As I said, we don't know everything that goes on in these interviews, so we don't know if he said, these are the terms that I want, which allegedly he wanted $20 million a year. He wanted a budget of $10 million a year for assistants. He wanted final say on the roster. Like, he had interviews with other teams, I believe either on the phone or like Zoom meetings or whatever. Maybe they weren't lukewarm on those deals, and the Giants are the only ones that came hard and said, we'll do it and we'll negotiate it out. We don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, though, because you have Dan Quinn, Schottenheimer, right? Not Schottenheimer. Is it Brian Schottenheimer?
Brian Schottenheimer with Cowboys?
Yeah. It didn't feel right saying that. And then you have Sirianni with the Eagles. And then you have Hurts, Dak, and Daniels. Dart, if he takes a step up, you could have the best coaching quarterback in that division, and that's pretty rare for a new coach to sign in. And you probably automatically have the best head coach in the division on day one, and you could have the best quarterback in the division, if not now, when Dak retires. That's pretty crazy. It's a pretty big flip.
And the Giants are serious about Harbaugh's demands because they let a couple people go in the front office. And I don't know if you saw their GM Sean do a little interview. People asked him about the final say, and he was trying to cope and say, "Oh, it's just a piece of paper. Like, it'll be a group decision. It's just a piece of paper." Sure, it is. Like that's why he fought hard to get it in writing, is for it to be ignored. Come on, Sean. Your time is limited. I am honestly surprised he didn't get fired. Just like Trent Baalke when Liam Cohen got hired last year.
Well, what's the point of keeping him at this point? The owner must still really like him in order for the reason why they're keeping him. I do think that the owner will be the tie breaking of any disputes that they have. So he might still lean the GM overall. So they both report to the owner now. So we'll see what that looks like. But we all know that the Belichick role of being head coach and GM, having final say of the roster, all that stuff, doesn't always go super smooth, especially for a first year guy doing it. So be careful what you wish for. You just might get it. But maybe he was trying to prevent a Lamar situation if he really was trying to ship off Lamar.
That could be that. Again, I don't fault him for wanting final say because I don't think Sean is a good GM. So I think in this case it's valid.
No, I agree. I don't like that he shipped off Barkley for nothing. Like, at least tag and trade him, or trade him before you let him go. Something. Nothing is crazy, especially to a division rival. At least you could control where he goes otherwise.
Yeah.
But a guy that isn't going anywhere is the Packers and Matt LaFleur agreeing to a contract extension, putting an end to any rumor in Green Bay that there's going to be a new head coach. What are your thoughts there?
The Packers are one of the teams that spend the least on coaches, so it makes sense that they work something out. And I think LaFleur might have had a couple teams interested in him, like the Dolphins or maybe the Titans, but I don't think he would have had that hot of a market. So it makes sense for him to stay and prove that he is still a good head coach. Having him there, he's willing to save money on assistant coaches because he hires his friends that are or former players too that are a little bit cheaper to start out.
Gotcha. I wonder what his raise will look like. He was making $8 to $9 million annually before this, so I would expect closer to the 15 mark. Harbaugh made roughly 17 million starting up this upcoming year. So he asked for 20 and got 17 roughly.
Let's see. We also have the second hire of the news cycle. The Falcons hired Kevin Stefanski pretty fast. And Jeff, I think that means that they're going to keep Kirk Cousins next year.
Oh boy. Why do you think that?
Because he fits Stefanski's scheme. I think they're going to franchise tag Kyle Pitts. And I think Cousins and Pitts are going to be a very interesting connection next year.
We will see. Kirk Cousins turns 38 before the season starts. Before we go any further, I do need to correct myself. Before, 17 million was his salary with the Ravens. He does make the 20 million, like you said, with the Giants. So he got a $3 million raise to go to the Giants. So tied with Andy Reid for the top salary.
Well, Kevin Stefanski now has a in-division rivalry with his former quarterback Baker Mayfield, who has some salty feelings about their time together in Cleveland.
Yeah, I really like the fact that Baker's speaking out. I know there's sportscasters that feel otherwise on this, but I feel like as a starting NFL quarterback, you are granted some lines of communication with the coach and GM that other people aren't. And Baker was not afforded that before just being shipped off. Like, probably should have talked to them. And I don't know. It feels like it comes off as ungrateful and Baker was the one to end the Cleveland playoff drought. So I just feel like there wasn't a lot of respect there for Baker at the end, and they just shipped him off like for pieces.
Baker was very immature when he
That's
was
fine.
in Cleveland. He was saying F you to media members there. He told an assistant coach F you, who the assistant coach was trying to calm him down. And I think that led to the Browns looking into Deshaun Watson, and Baker found out about it. And once they did that, they couldn't turn back because Baker went off on them. I think that part of it's Baker's fault, part of it's their fault. I don't think they should have looked into Deshaun Watson. And I think Baker needed to journey around to a couple different rosters to kind of mature a little bit, and found a really nice home with the Bucks. So outside of that, now that Stefanski is there, you're an NFC South follower. How do you think this shakes up the division?
I think that Atlanta needs a lot of work offensively. I think they're actually getting much better on defense. So it will be interesting to see what direction they go in. And if the Falcons keep Kirk Cousins this year, he is guaranteed to make $0.9 more million on his contract. Is the owner willing to do that? Is going to be the big question. It's a go ahead. It's almost a $68 million decision.
The owner is extremely elderly and wants to win now.
That's not
So
going to happen this year.
yeah, I agree. But I think that means keeping Cousins. I don't know if Penix is officially done or Stefanski can rehab Penix behind Cousins. We'll see. But one thing that he's bringing over from his time in Cleveland is he's pretty much a top 5 rushing offense his entire time he was in Cleveland. So as far as, attempts and calling run plays and things like that, obviously their offensive line was terrible, so they weren't very efficient at the run game. So I expect Bijan through the moon, especially since Algier is likely gone as a free agent. There's no one behind him eating a lot of his snaps. So Bijan might be the number 1 overall fantasy pick for me in redrafts.
All right. I like that. I released my first round, I believe, the other day. And I think I'm right there with you with Bijan. I couldn't quite put Jahmyr Gibbs at 1 or 2 just because I don't fully trust him. I'm a McCaffrey 2 guy. So Bijan and McCaffrey.
Yeah, we can talk about how I feel about the entire Lions offense when we get to the coordinator hires in a minute. But yeah, Bijan to me is the clear leader in the clubhouse for number 1 running back at a minimum, and likely first overall in redraft.
Awesome. So yeah. Wow. So if I just did a little more research on Kirk Cousins here in the background. If his option does get picked up on March 13th, then he will have made his full contract of the 4 years, $180 million that he signed with the Falcons. So when he put pen to paper, he reduced his salary this year from $35 million to $2.1 million. So when they cut him, they can get $33 million in cap space for him. So
I think it's changed since then. Like, I think that was their initial idea, and I think now they almost have to keep him.
They've screwed themselves then with that renegotiation last month, because that means his 2027 salary is $67.9 million. And there's no years after it to put void years on it. There's nothing.
They can renegotiate it at that point.
He'll be 40. 39 and 40. Like, he's not a Hall of Famer, so I don't expect him to do well that late.
I mean, we'll see how they finagle it. You tell me all the time that the cap isn't real, so I'm sure they'll figure something out to make it work, but
he has to want to play ball.
I don't know how else they're competitive without Kirk Cousins there.
Yeah. It'll be interesting because it feels like a bridge has been burnt, but we'll see. His cap hit next year is $90 million. They could throw void years on the end of that, but you're talking about a 40, 41, 42, 43-year-old quarterback.
Yeah,
I don't think
we'll
it's
see
that
how it
great of a
shakes
team.
out.
Yeah,
We'll
I
see
don't
how
think
it
it's
shakes out, but I'm 2 for 2 in my predictions for coaching hires, and I am 3 for 3 with the next one, which is Dolphins hire Jeff Hadley, the Packers defensive coordinator. He is also a college head coach before being the Packers defensive coordinator. It's a good hire. We links up with the former Dolphin front office person who's now the GM for the Dolphins, former Packers, now Dolphins. So links line up, and I think he has a chance to be a really good stabilizing head coach for the Dolphins. It's interesting that the Falcons and Dolphins and Giants all got head coaches before the Ravens, another opening that came up, and you liked the Arizona Cardinals, and they are yet to hire a coach as we record this.
They have not yet, and they might be the leaders in the clubhouse for Joe Brady. Who knows?
I think they're in right now. I think they're Vance Joseph or Joe Brady. I think those are their top two.
We will see. Vance Joseph isn't eligible to be hired yet, right? Because he's still playing.
Yep, that's true.
That's why when you fire a coach a little bit late, you're not super behind the eight ball because the best assistants that are still around should still be playing and they're not eligible to sign until they're eliminated. So, yep.
I don't think that's how it used to be. I think they could agree to be a head coach and still coach. And I think that changed at some point. But what do you make of the Dolphins hire here?
I think the Packers are moving south. I think they're going to try to run it like Green Bay, and that will be very interesting for Miami. Um, I don't think the roster is anything Green Bay would ever have. So I think this roster will flip over pretty significantly over the next 3 years. And hopefully they make the right decisions because if they don't, they could be fired within those 3 years. And this is their first time doing it. So this is pretty risky. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be pretty risky. The defense should get better, but what about the offense? Is the offense going to get any better?
It's going to be different. I'm not sure if it's going to be better or worse yet.
Right.
It's not it's not going to be flashy like Mike McDaniel and his offense, but it might be more balanced and sustainable.
Like, what happens to Achan in this offense? Does he get traded?
We don't even know what style offense they're going to do yet. I don't know if they've hired an offensive coordinator at this moment.
They have it. Running out of the great ones right now, too. So we will
But
see.
yeah, we will check that and try to figure out what that means for fantasy once they have an offensive coordinator. But right now, I'm neutral on the offensive side. And
All right.
also another team that does not yet have an offensive coordinator, but they did get a head coach and they made a competent hire, the Tennessee Titans. Surprise hire for me. They got Robert Saleh. That breaks my streak. I did not have him there. I had Brian Dable and Matt Nagy just because Matt Nagy was linked to them so strongly, even though I don't think anyone would be smart to hire Matt Nagy. I thought Dable made sense because it was rumored that he and the Giants were very, very interested in trading up for Cam Ward. Cam Ward, of course, is now the second year quarterback for the Titans going into next year. So now we have a defensive minded head coach, and maybe this makes too much sense. I view Saleh as the nice guy version of Mike Vrabel. He's a very smart defensive coordinator. He hopefully learned some lessons from his time with the Jets and will be a better head coach this go around. But he's a nice guy to ownership. So he's not like mean old Mike in New England. Jeff, what do you make of this hire and what in the world are they going to do at offensive coordinator?
Well, I had read a quote or a line that said they were looking to hire a Mike Vrabel type, and I was like, that's interesting because I feel like they had a guy like the Mike Vrabel type. But I don't think Salah should have been fired from the Jets either. I don't think Vrabel should have been fired from the Titans. So, I mean, does this course correct? Maybe it does for the Titans. The Jets are in no man's land, as we've discussed multiple times now. Here we are, and I believe his offense will be as good as the coordinator that he can bring in. And there's rumors that he's trying to bring in Brian Daboll to be his offensive coordinator. But Brian Daboll may have other opportunities looming, so he is still out there, free agent. The defense will get better. I mean, I'll add that to it.
It's just so funny. Like, firing Vrabel really blew up in their face so bad that they hired another Vrabel, but he's slightly nicer.
I don't think they'll move off him as fast, and I think this is a good job for him. So, regardless, he's got a 5-year head coaching contract, so he got paid again. As you notice here, we don't really talk about the years that coaches sign for because they can be fired after year one. So it's so moot how many years that they actually sign for.
Well, it's the owner's tolerance for paying out the contract too, for
Isn't
nothing.
Vegas still paying out like its last 4 coaches right now? Like Gruden and Pierce and Carroll.
At least their last three.
Yep, and I think it's pretty high in dollars too that they're paying out too. So we'll
Alright.
see. But you got back on track with the fifth hire, which makes it your fourth correct when the Ravens hired Chargers defensive coordinator Jesse Minter. What do you believe will happen with Lamar and the Ravens with Jesse Minter?
Well, I think the Ravens defense is going to be good like it used to be. He's familiar there. He was the defensive backs coach in 2017. He did a great job with the Chargers, who I don't think the personnel with the Chargers was as good as they were the year before, but he still finished pretty high on the defensive statistics and efficiency and rankings. And just watching the games, you could tell that they were very, very good, keeping opponents' scores down for the most part. He'll make the Ravens tough again. And I don't know if you looked at the Ravens' history of coaches. I believe he is out of the 4 head coaches in their franchise history, he is the 3rd defensive-minded head coach. And Harbaugh is the other one, and Harbaugh with special teams. So I don't think that they've ever had an offensive-minded head coach. So it's interesting that they keep going this philosophy, considering Lamar Jackson has been unhappy the last season or two.
Yeah, I don't really know this was a Lamar hire. I don't know it wasn't, but I just don't get the feeling that this is a big hire for them. I don't think it's going to move the needle offensively for them. Now, I will say that could change again, just like with the Dolphins, just like with the Titans, depending on the offensive coordinator that they hire. So this could all move, and this is all subjective to what happens going forward.
Yeah, and we can throw out some ideas for some of these openings after we get through the games, because we got to get through the games before we spoil any new
Happenings.
vacancies. Yeah. So let's do some coordinators. The Lions have a disappointing hire at offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing, the former coordinator for the Cardinals, who nobody likes. So we'll see how that shakes out. They went after Mike McDaniel, and either they didn't like him and his style, or he went there and said nope, and then they covered their tracks in the media. But for whatever reason, they didn't end up hiring Mike McDaniel. Mike McDaniel goes to the Chargers, so it's good for Herbert and all of the weapons there. And the Chiefs bring back Eric Bieniemy as offensive coordinator. Matt Nagy is a free agent coach and out there interviewing with teams. Interesting that they didn't re-sign Nagy or wait to see if he got a job. They went straight to Bieniemy. So I think that tells you all you need to know about Nagy as a serious candidate. Falcons hire Tommy Rees as offensive coordinator. Buccaneers hire former Falcons offensive coordinator Zach Robinson as OC. I mean, he previously worked with Baker Mayfield for like 5 weeks total. So
He
that's
looked really good that
clearly
one
enough.
Monday night, though, that he had to start.
He's an okay run coordinator, surprisingly, for being a former quarterback. So maybe the run game there gets back on track this coming year. And Commanders promote assistant quarterback coach David Blau to OC. Jeff, what do you make of the offensive coordinator hires?
So there was a lot of uninspiring picks. The most inspiring pick was Mike McDaniel, because I think with Herbert, who was drafted in the same draft as Tua, he actually upgraded at quarterback and he could rehab his value and be out the door next year. And I think that's the plan. I don't really know, but I would think if like Tampa Bay opened, or he'd go right back.
It's funny because you and I were talking offline about this, and I was saying if Mike McDaniel goes to the Chargers and gets Herbert and the Chargers past the early knockouts of the playoffs, then he can get any job that's open that he wants.
Yep. He's just got to get one playoff win, and that will get the monkey off the back. And I think he really can. I think this will be a really great year for Mike McDaniel.
And I think that is the perfect spot for him. One, because like you like to say, he likes the warm weather, and two, being under a guy like Jim Harbaugh, who has more gravitas than he does, and I think that is the perfect spot for Mike McDaniel to grow as a coach and learn from a better head coach and reflect on his time from Miami, what he could do next go around.
Yeah, I think that it will be a really great move for him. As you said, reflection, growth with Harbaugh, and he can just take a step back and not have to manage everything all the time. He can just do the offense. So
Will he start wearing khakis? That's what I want to know.
maybe, but I heard his wife was a big reason why he picked California, because that's where she wanted to be. So that drove some of his decision on all these offers.
Interesting.
Yep. We always forget that there's usually another partner that has a say in where people go. And that might be why Harbaugh picked the Giants too, without going anywhere else. She might be like, I don't want to move too far away from Baltimore. Like New Jersey, Baltimore, it's kind of similar region. Not super close, but not super far either.
Yeah.
Very same weather.
Eric Bieniemy, I don't really care for, but it does indicate that we'll go back to maybe a run-heavy offense. Maybe they'll draft a running back. Maybe he'll help rehab the running back there. But none of these were particularly great.
I don't think he has any running backs under contract right now, so unless Brashard Smith is one of his
So
running backs.
Jeremiah Love at number 9 for Kansas City.
Maybe.
Because
It
I
looks
have
like
to think
Kelsey's on
Commanders are going defense, but who knows?
Yeah. I've seen them. I've seen Love tied to them too. I've seen Love tied to New Orleans. I've seen Love everywhere.
The New Orleans one makes no sense to me. No sense. Kamara is still under contract. I think Kendry Miller still is under contract. They have Devin Neal.
Yep.
Makes no sense.
You
They
have
need
to
a wide
admit,
receiver.
though, you have to admit that Kendra Miller is probably on his last leg, though. Oft injured, oft in the doghouse.
Well, I don't think he's in the doghouse with Kellen Moore. I think he just got injured this year.
Yeah, he's always been injured though. He struggled with staying healthy previously too, with hamstrings and stuff. Not to the extent of Marshawn Lloyd, but pretty close.
Why do you have to get Marshawn Lloyd like that? He did nothing to you
He caught
and was
a
catching
stray.
strays. Uh,
I'm sorry, that's the first person that comes to mind that cannot stay healthy. So
In theory, though, he's really good. We'll just never know.
in your mind, he's great. And you're gonna stick to that.
Do you have anything else to add on any of these offensive coordinators before we talk about some of the defensive guys?
Zach Robinson with Baker could be interesting with how they played together for a cup of coffee with the Rams. He came in from Carolina, started that following week, and he actually led the game-winning drive and everything. So I think there's some hope there. There's something there. I just don't know what, because we didn't see it for a very long time. But hopefully Hopefully.
I really do think if they fired their head coach Bowles, they would have been able to get McDaniel.
Yep. And they could still do that next year. So no harm, no foul.
All right. All right. So defensive guys, Brian Flores wasn't getting a head coaching job, so he went back to the Vikings as the defensive coordinator again.
You had him
Falcons
in
were able.
Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, it just made a lot of sense. It made a lot of sense, but
I don't think an NFL owner is going to be allowed to hire him again. You
well, if
sue
anyone
the
was,
shield.
it would be the Rooneys. So
True. You sue the shield. The shield sues you in a different way.
Falcons were able to hold on to their solid defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, and the Cowboys are hiring the Eagles pass game coordinator, Christian Parker, who worked a lot with the defensive backs there as their defensive coordinator.
I
So
think that's an underrated
one of the
hire.
best things about the Eagles defense is a couple of their young corners. We'll see if they help the Cowboys, who their secondary's in shambles. So
Well, this has to be an upgrade from Matt Eberflus. Like, I think a monkey
stop giving
walking
this
in
guy
would be.
jobs. I'm serious. Stop giving Eberflus and Getsy and Art Smith. Stop giving these guys jobs.
Get younger, get smarter, get more efficient. I don't know if people watch, but the younger coaches, like there are some older coaches that coach very well still, but the younger coaches come in and they are much more exciting than the older
The word
Belichick's,
you're looking
Carroll's.
the word you're looking for is innovative.
I like it.
There's a one thing that Mike McDaniel said. I think it was in an interview or a talk where his time with the Redskins back when they were called the Redskins. Um, they basically drafted a quarterback that the coaches didn't really want, didn't fit their scheme in Robert Griffin III. And so they had to, from scratch, come up with plays that maximized Robert Griffin III, and it forced them out of a box. Like no one told them what to do. They had to come up with it together, and that made him a much better coach because right off the bat, early in his career, he's learning to do that. And not very many coaches do that anymore.
Right. I think McDaniel's going to be forced to come out of his box this year. I don't think they're going to have quite the speed. Quentin Johnson could have a great year, though, but I don't think they're going to have quite the speed of the Dolphins.
I mean, Quentin Johnston's just fast.
It's what he likes, literally.
Omari and Hampton may have a good year if he keeps their rushing usage. This might be the year of the running backs, 26.
Maybe. We will see. Anything else on coaches that have already been hired? And if not, we can hop over to the divisional round.
No, we can do the divisional round and we can both share our heartbreak with the world. And then we can talk about other openings and jobs that came up out of this. So, Jeff, let's get kick-started here with the number 6 Bills at the number 1 Broncos. Split decision here. I picked the Broncos and you picked the Bills. The Broncos won in overtime 33-31, but it was controversial and it was a very close matchup. I know you might say differently, but it was. Jeff, how did you feel about this?
The Bills had several questionable calls called on them in the last drive in overtime. And they were not called earlier in the game, so they definitely they got more strict, the officials did, as the game went on. But some takeaways that I had here were the Bills ran all over the Broncos. Cook went 24 for 117. The Bills also had ball security issues, 2 interceptions and 3 fumbles. 4 of those turnovers were on Allen, 1 was on Cook. The biggest questionable decision is McDermott being aggressive at the end of the first half. That cost the Bills 3 points, and that wouldn't have even had to go to overtime at that point if they had just taken a knee. So aggression is not always the best attitude. And the Broncos, Bo Nix, and two of their top 4 receivers are battling injuries, and Bo Nix underwent season-ending ankle surgery. So that means Jarrett Stidham is in and going on Sunday, and he will be cold, like jumping right into the playoffs, right into this crazy, crazy atmosphere. But not all bad news for the Broncos. They could get J.K. Dobbins back for Sunday, and they host the title game this Sunday, so they will be home. Did I miss anything on this Bills and Broncos game?
I will just say there were a lot of calls that didn't get called against the Bills that should have. And if they got called for a safety, the Broncos would have won in overtime anyway. And instead, they didn't call it, even though the Bills' right tackle was basically arm choking the defender.
Did
The
see that.
questionable pass interference and the questionable interception would never have happened to upset people. People would be upset that the game ended on a safety instead.
Yeah. I think that rule I do think that rule needs to be revisited quickly because I don't want to see a playoff game end in a safety on a penalty. So I would rather see the ball go to the one on a penalty like that.
I mean, maybe in an overtime situation they can change it, but not regular play.
Okay, fair.
So that might be fair.
Because who wants to see that?
But the game losing interception that's questionable. It's interesting because we saw basically 4 different iterations of it in a 2-week time span, and I think all of them had a different result. Obviously, the Bills one was slightly different, getting the ball yanked out by the defender. I think it was an interception based on the rule and based on the ball moving, but I understand why Bills fans feel differently, and it sucks that there's even like a weird play like that at all. But it happened. It was called that way, and I think that there's enough evidence to support that. I don't think that's why the Bills lost. Bills had 5 turnovers to 1 against the Broncos, and usually the team that commits the most turnovers is most likely going to lose the game. I do agree that the Bills were moving very well, but it doesn't necessarily have the same effect when you turn the ball over 5 times. So in essence, you can view it as the Bills giving it away, or you can view it as the Broncos defense taking it away, which means they did their job. It was ugly doing it, but they did it. I do think that because of this scenario and Bo Nix breaking his ankle and getting surgery on his ankle, that now it's an ugly Broncos are now an ugly team to move on. Some people are saying Stidham, the backup, is almost as good as Bo Nix, or they're close in caliber. I don't care. I want to see Bo Nix play. I think Bo Nix is better than Stidham. And barring that, then I would have preferred the Bills to win, because I want to see a competitive championship game, and I want to see scoring. But it's crazy to me that Bo Nix hurt his ankle on a QB kneel, which the whole reason that play exists is to not get an injury. So messy, sloppy game. This is the best game of the entire weekend, and I wish this was the primetime Sunday night game instead.
Absolutely. Maybe the Bills would have won because if you recall, they were on 6 days rest. The Broncos were on 14 days rest. Mile high in an overtime game. I'm just saying, the fourth quarter is hard. Overtime has to be twice as hard on a visiting team in Mile High. So the Broncos played to the home field advantage that they had. Totally fine and within the rules. And I think the Bills had a perfect game plan if they could have just held on to the football more. And I think some of it was just being careless with the football. Like, I don't blame the Brandon Cooks interception at all, because if Brandon Cooks drops that pass, they're punting on the next play and it's the same result as the arm punt. Like, so that to me is tomato. But I think that Brandon Cooks had the ball, went to the ground with the ball. The guy was grabbing the ball while he was on the ground already, and his momentum took over and he ended up with the ball. The referee saw it differently, and there's not going to be any arguing that. So it is what it is. And the Bills drop this one. And because they dropped this one, they did fire McDermott on Monday after the game, which is I buried the lead.
So they fired him. There was a power struggle with the GM. The GM got promoted in the same press release as McDermott, and McDermott's time was basically labeled as Admiral instead of Admirable. So and now we have Admiral Gate as well. Created some fun memes. But Jeff, we've talked about this offline. Their coaching candidates seem to be Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, and a familiar name. Brian Dable is also in contention. Granted, they're the latest team to have an opening. They're behind the eight ball in interviews, but those seem to be the two names thrown out there, as well as Davis Webb, who actually is on the Broncos coaching staff. So that would be a weird wrinkle to bring him in. What do you think the most likely coaching hire is? And is there anyone else that I didn't name that you think would be a good coach there?
I think the Jags offensive coordinator is on the short list also. I don't know if they'll do that, but would be quite interesting to bring in a new voice and a new person into the fold. I think if you did that, you would have to bring in Davis Webb as the offensive coordinator, because that would give some continuity and some flow with Josh Allen as well. It'll be interesting to see what direction they go in, but I would probably go Dable with Webb right now.
We will see how that shakes out. I have Joe Brady left because I initially picked Saleh. Joe Brady was my backup, so we will see if I'm completely wrong or if I got the backup right.
Yeah,
Dable, I think, would be good with Saleh and with Tennessee if he doesn't get the Bills job.
Yeah, I just don't know if Joe Brady is ready to be an NFL head coach yet.
He was a hot name before the season started.
But we learned with Brian Daboll, you can't take Josh Allen with you to the next job. So
yeah,
pretty innovative play calling, though. I will give him that. Anything else on this heartbreaker before I never talk about it again in my entire life?
I just want to say I feel for Bills fans out there, and I got my own heartache later. But we'll talk about the most futile matchup of the entire weekend. The 49ers at the Seahawks. Remember, the 49ers are basically playing with an almost entire backup team, it feels like. The Seahawks are number one seed in the NFC. They won. We both picked them. We both got that right. Good for us. Jeff, I may or may not have fallen asleep in this game. How did you feel?
Well, it was 41-6. The Niners' limited talent finally gave out, and they lost Saleh in this coaching cycle as a result of this loss. Purdy is the rushing leader for the 49ers in this one. Darnold did gut out this game. He was going in with an oblique injury, and we didn't know if he was going to play or how well he was going to play. Shaheed set the tone early in this game with a opening kickoff for a touchdown. The game at that point in my head was already over. The 49ers scored 6 points. That opening play scored 7, so I was correct on that assumption as well. And it was mostly due to Ken Walker, who had 3 touchdowns in this one. And it is paramount that he does that because he is entering free agency here in about a month and a half. And we have this happening was in part due to fellow running back Zach Charbonnet tearing his ACL. Sadly, this will impact how the Seahawks look at running back this offseason, because I really do think they were running with Charbonnet and something else, not Ken Walker anymore. So they may need to tag or bring back Ken Walker as well for one more season. And the Seahawks will also host this upcoming Sunday. So the 2 number 1 seeds have already won. Anything you want to add to the snooze fest, as you called it?
No. I think this would have been a different game if the 49ers were healthier, but the fact that they made it this far is a credit to the coaching staff.
Absolutely. And then we have the Texans at the Patriots. So the number 5 Texans at the number 2 Patriots. You had picked the Texans. I had picked the Patriots. And unfortunately, Alex, the Texans can't get out of their own way and lose 28-16. Texans turned the ball over 5 times, 4 by Stroud, 1 by Marks. Could have been a lot more for Stroud. Texans need to take a good long look in the mirror for 2026, especially on offense. Marks did have 14 carries for 17 yards, which I would register as not good. Patriots have their own ball security issues, but they only lose 3, so it was a 5-3 turnover fest. Patriots won because their ground game worked. The running backs totaled 95 yards to 28 for the Texans. Booty had a unreal touchdown grab that's the only place that Drake May could have put it, where his receiver caught it and the defender couldn't have any shot of defending it. And the Patriots return to the AFC title game, this time in Denver versus the backup quarterback. Hopefully plays better than CJ Stroud this past week. And we are so blessed to have this beaten down franchise in the postseason in the AFC Championship game. Just cannot believe the Patriots finally made it here after all of these years of their franchise.
After what, the 2 down years? Just 2 down years and then boom.
Yep. Because even the Cam years weren't that bad.
I mean, I guess you could say a lot of Mac Jones' time was not good. He had the one good year with the Patriots. Yeah, this game thoroughly ticked me off. Houston has never won a Super Bowl, not just the Texans, but the Oilers as well. And a lot of the time, it was the Bills knocking the Oilers out in the postseason in the 90s. So it sucked. Stroud had a horrifyingly bad game. I wanted him out at the end of the first quarter. A lot of speculation was at the halftime they were going to make the switch, and they never did. D'Amico Ryans never considered it. They really didn't get much better in the second half. Woody Marks, again, like every single week, played injured because he always gets an injury, gets knocked out, comes back into the game. This time, he didn't play any better. The Texans decided to punt with 4 minutes left in the game. I mean, I get why Stroud wasn't doing anything. The offense wasn't going to do anything. The defense had a chance to do something in this matchup. But, man, this game just really beat me down. And as much as I like Drake May, I don't like that the Patriots are back this fast. I want at least one more year, but no.
Nope.
So neither the Bills nor the Texans, both who could surely use a Super Bowl victory, make it. And now 3 of the teams that we've talked about, the 3 teams that we've talked about that advanced, have all been to the Super Bowl in the last 10 to 15 years. And multiple times for them.
Yeah, I know you're getting choked up on your words here, but imagine being a NFL head coach with 4 minutes left, admitting that your offense can't win it, not making any changes on said offense, and punting it back to the other team and watching them get 3 first downs and ice the game.
Yep.
Make it make sense.
This is the game that really made me want D'Amico fired. 99.99% of Texans fans think that's stupid. He's the best coach the Texans have ever had. This is an elite defense. My thing is the offense has gotten worse each year. His first year, the offense already had one of the lowest scoring totals for touchdowns for the offensive stats. Each year it has gone down. Caley, to me, while he does have some plays that work, I think on a whole, he doesn't do a good job preparing any of his players for the games each week. Clearly, Stroud needed his hand held more than this, and Slowick was better with Stroud. But the rookies should have had more impact this entire season than what they did. They were forced to use Marks because Mixon was out the entire year and the staff didn't do anything about getting replacement other than getting Nick Chubb, who was a shell of himself. They kept Daria Bungawale on the roster. I don't understand those moves anymore. And I don't know why Trent Brown was such a key cog for the offensive line, but when he missed this game and he battled to try to play, but he missed this game, the entire offensive line fell apart and forgot how to pass block. I am displeased. I don't think the offense is going to get better with D'Amico Ryans in charge, and that breaks my heart because he's one of my favorite Texans players of all time, and or all 25, 24 years that they've been around. The offense, he can't fix the offense, and the only way to do that is to get an offensive-minded head coach. It's the only way to do it.
Yep.
And the defense, as it is now, it is already built. Almost any defensive coordinator can run it the exact same way that they're running it now. And a good defensive coordinator can also bring in some creative wrinkles that D'Amico is not using. But I do think
Agreed.
D'Amico has that leader of men thing that gets his defense playing hard. It just doesn't translate the offense. And right now, I'd rather have a slightly worse defense and a significantly better offense with a different coaching staff.
Exactly. And man, I don't know how Stroud rehabs from this because he made some throws that injured some players in this game, and it could have been a lot worse than it was. I think Stover's looked really bad, and I guess it wasn't as bad as it looked. But Nico the week before, I don't know how he rehabs his brain from this.
I don't know, but I'm not optimistic about the Texans next year already. And Texans and Bills missed a prime opportunity to go to the Super Bowl without the Chiefs, without the Bengals, without the Ravens. We'll see. We'll see what happens
Yeah,
next.
if you got moderately competent quarterback play and moderately competent running back play, this game wouldn't have even been close.
Yep. Well, I think it had less to do with the running back and more to do with the offensive line just falling apart in this game. And part of that is Milton Williams being back with the Patriots made their run defense a lot better. But all I keep thinking about is the Texans had Josh Allen on this team. It's an easy Super Bowl team. Easy, easy, easy. I
There
think it
you
would
go.
beat any of the NFC teams.
Submit the offer.
4 first-round picks and CJ Stroud.
I saw someone say the Jets offer 3 first-round picks for CJ Stroud. Who says no to that? And I'm wondering if Texans fans would say no to that anymore.
No. Well, it depends what draft year. Is it this year? Starting 2027.
Right. Isn't that where quarterbacks graveyard exists over in New Jersey?
Yes, which it means the future ones will be high.
Anything else on this before we put your heartbreak to rest for the rest of the year and we don't talk Texans the rest of the year either?
No, let's get to the next one. I know you want to talk about the quarterbacks and that.
All right, 5 Rams at the 2 Bears. We both picked the Rams, and the Rams squeezed this one out in overtime 20-17. Rams offense does very little after the first quarter. Snow definitely played a role in this one. Kyron Williams does score 2 touchdowns on the ground, and the Bears only made it to overtime because of an unreal throw by Caleb Williams. And last thing I'll say before I'll let you comment on Caleb Williams, the Rams travel to division rival Seattle for their 3rd showdown this Sunday evening.
Yeah. I'm getting tired of people saying Caleb Williams is wonderful and really great because he had 3 to 5 awesome throws the entire year in postseason combined, and everything else was kind of crap. So he was bad again for most of this game. Most of this game just happened to score in the even numbered quarters. But again, the Rams played very well. It was bad weather for both teams. The practicing in the elements apparently didn't work that well for Chicago. There's really not much else to say. I know DJ Moore lackadaisically ran a route that ended up being an interception because the defender jumped it. That's just what you have to do sometimes. You have to get over that with certain diva wide receivers. But
Yeah.
Caleb is not good enough, in my opinion. And he has one of the best supporting cast of anyone from that draft class, any of the 5 other quarterbacks from that draft class. And he is mediocre, except for one amazing throw towards the end of the game.
It might be the best throw in NFL history off the back foot.
It's not the best throw in NFL history because he didn't win the game with it. Like, that would make it the best if they won the game with that throw.
Gotcha. Well, I cannot wait to see how he grows in Ben Johnson's offense in year 2. They do say it takes about 3 years to master a complex offense like Ben Johnson. So for year 1 to be doing what he's doing, I expect him to raise his completions percentage roughly about 5 to 7% this upcoming year.
Well, year 3 with Ben Johnson is the end of the regular contract for him as a first-round pick, and they will have already decided on a 5th-year option before that comes. So I'm very curious how it plays out. I am not sure he gets a second contract, and if he does, I don't think he's in Chicago on the entire second contract.
Okay. I feel like you're on an island on this one. I don't know why you decided to put yourself on this island, but even the national media is calling him a top NFL quarterback and an up and coming quarterback.
They called him that for a couple sensational throws. He has some amazing throws, and it annoys me that people highlight those amazing throws or fourth quarter comebacks. It's not like with other fourth quarter comebacks for other quarterbacks. He is the reason why they get in deep holes, and he is the one that has to claw them out because he got them there. It annoys me to no end that people overrate him because he's so talented that he can do a couple good throws late in the game.
Yeah, and he's only 24, and I would say that he played better than Drake May this week, and people don't give Drake May the same treatment. So, and he's going to be compared mostly to Drake May and Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix for the rest of his career.
It's difficult to compare their matchups this week. Chicago was a lot worse weather, but the Rams secondary has been pretty poor against the pass for most of the season, whereas the Texans defense, in my opinion, are a top 2 defense, and you can debate them versus Seattle, but Texans are a top 2 defense, and Drake May's receivers aren't really considered to be high caliber receivers. Even Diggs, who is a veteran, is not as high as he used to be back in his Buffalo days.
Did I hear today right that Diggs was rated in the top 10 of receivers for both outside and slot this year? Not
I
just
haven't
one
heard that.
position. So yeah, you'll have to take a peek at that. But he's highly rated this year. Better than any receiver that Williams had this year. Rookie Burden, not there yet. Odunze hurt, not there yet. DJ Moore checks out. He should be shipped out. He didn't even look for that pass from Williams that threw that last interception. Didn't even look for it. So, not saying it wouldn't have been an interception either way, but just would have felt better if he was coming back for it or looking at it. Like, how long did he expect that play to develop for? Because that was like 5 seconds of him holding the ball. Like, what did he expect? I think Loveland is incredible. I think Burden will be incredible, but rookies didn't come on till later in the year.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's wrap this up with the conference championship preview here.
So,
I guess
PFF ranked Diggs as a top 10 receiver in the slot for the Patriots and a top 10 in wide alignments this year. So, he can line up wherever and be a top 10 receiver still.
I disagree with that, but I still think he's a good starting receiver. I don't think he's top 10.
We will see. We have to question though if he's a Hall of Famer.
I think right now he's better than anything the Bills have at wide receiver, but I don't think he is the star or borderline star that he was when he was actually on the Bills roster. Like, he's in his older Keenan Allen phase right now, in my opinion.
Older Keenan Allen, because Keenan Allen's old and his older Keenan Allen phase right now.
Well, Keenan Allen is on the actual end of his older Keenan Allen phase. I'm talking about like the year or two right before Keenan Allen left the Chargers and went to the Bears.
Yeah. Apparently, according to AI, Stephon Diggs has a strong potential Hall of Fame case.
You know, they made a requirement to make the Hall of Fame. You have to have at least one Pro Bowl. Isn't that crazy?
Really?
Yeah.
Well, he has more than one, so I'm not worried about that. And he has that one catch that will live in infamy in Minnesota.
Well, he has a baby mama that lives in infamy in Cardi B. So anyway, let's do remaining head coaching predictions. We got
Yeah, I want to hear these, Alex, from you.
Cleveland, Arizona, Las Vegas, Pittsburgh, Buffalo. Cleveland, I think, is Grant you, the offensive coordinator for the Jaguars, or McDermott could be someone of interest because he was almost hired by Cleveland in 2017 instead of Kevin Stefanski. So they would have some interest in him, but I think the Jaguars offensive coordinator is who they end up with. Arizona, I think, is waiting on Vance Joseph, but they could go after either of the offensive assistants for the Rams, like the other LaFleur. Vegas, I think, is waiting on Clint Kubiak because he is one of the coaches that would be perfect for Mendoza. Pittsburgh, I initially had Brian Flores. He is back with the Vikings. My backup was Mike McCarthy. That seems like a very strong option right now for them. They might throw their hat in the ring for McDermott, though, so we'll see.
That's what I was just
Buffalo,
thinking.
Buffalo. We talked about Dable and Brady and Davis Webb already. I don't know of any other names that would come up at this point.
Jags OC. I would pick there over Cleveland.
For me, I don't think Buffalo would be willing to do that. They want someone a little more proven and
That's
also
maybe.
someone that would already have a connection with Josh Allen. Or they keep Joe Brady and they hire another defensive minded head coach. Like those are the directions I see. Those are the four options. I don't really think it will be the Jags.
Could they get Clint Kubiak?
Maybe, but I don't think Clint Kubiak has that much experience with that mobile of a quarterback. I mean, you look at Seattle, it's Sam Darnold. The year before that, in New Orleans, it was Spencer Rattler and what?
He's much more mobile
Derek.
than Josh. Josh doesn't run first, though.
I don't know.
He's been lining up a lot
I
behind
won't
center,
say he
too.
won't be interested in it, but I think the Raiders have their mind set on Kubiak, and I think they will throw whatever they have to do to get him.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see. They can't offer a Josh Allen, though, so we'll see. That's a once in a lifetime gig. And so the Bills can't even request to interview him right now. So, like, if they were interested in him, we wouldn't know about it until they're eliminated or the end of the Super Bowl. Although I think
Yeah.
he can interview during conference championship or like that week off in the middle. I think he can interview there.
Yeah.
We just
All
wouldn't
right.
know.
Do you have any thoughts on the coaches?
I think Schwartz gets promoted in Cleveland because I don't think they'll risk losing him at all. I think Joe Brady goes to Arizona, which could really help Buffalo with receiver trades at some point, perhaps. Vegas is a wild card. I think Brady's going to be looking for his Belichick. That could be a McDermott type, to be honest, and a good culture builder. Pittsburgh could look McDermott as well, but I would like Mike McCarthy for there because it's an interesting new approach because they're very defensive first. I would love for them to hire an offensive coach, potentially get more different because that division is very defensive focused. I want to shift it over to more offensive focused. But I wish they would hire a young offensive coach to battle Minter all these years because I want to get this Baltimore Pittsburgh rival off on the right foot. I wish LaFleur and Ben Johnson were those two teams' head coaches because they hate each other. So I wish we had that kind of rival between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Like the league's much better with that. Buffalo's the wild card right now. There's still a whole bunch of folks that they can't interview yet because that they're still playing. So I think that'll be the biggest unknown, and I think that's a big advantage for Buffalo at this point too. Is that those coaches couldn't be hired yet, so they could sneak in and squeeze one. But that's
We'll
my
see.
thoughts. Hopefully, they're all filled or rumored to be filled by next week. That's my hope.
You need certain teams to lose.
We will see what teams lose because we got the championship Sunday primer coming up next. Anything on coaches before we flip the script to Sunday's championship games? We got the AFC Championship kicking it off at 3 p.m. Sunday with the number 2 Patriots visiting the number 1 Broncos. As we stated, Broncos could get J.K. Dobbins back, but they will be without Nix. Alex, who are you taking in this one here in the AFC Championship game?
I'm taking the Patriots because they have their quarterback, and their quarterback is better, and the Broncos cannot run the ball, and they don't have very good receivers. So give me the Patriots.
May does have to be on point because we saw what happened with Josh Allen last week. He got too lax with the football, and they are ones to get turnovers. Think this could be Hunter Henry / running back receiving game because if you can attack the Broncos anywhere, you can attack the linebackers and even the run game in some aspects because James Cook ran all over them. I expect Ramondre to have a little bit bigger of a role than Henderson this week, but that's just me wanting to go with the bigger back and just kind of duplicate what the Bills did against the Broncos last week. I think the Bills laid down the groundwork of what to do with the Broncos defense, and we'll see if the Patriots can follow it.
Well, I actually want to give the Jaguars credit. I think the Jaguars had the blueprint of how to take down the Denver and the Broncos there, and the Bills kind of copied what worked a little bit.
Yeah. I think the Bills are the first team to lose a divisional round matchup without punting one time.
It needs to punt when you throw an interception. So
yeah, only one of those interceptions I'm willing to count, and there was only one then. 2 fumbles that were horrific, though. End of the first half one was, what are you doing holding the football like that? Can't fire Josh Allen, though.
No, there's some Bills fans that want to get rid of him, but I think they're just a vocal minority there.
Yeah, no, nothing that I've heard. I am going to go the Patriots, too. It hurts me. I think this game's going to be much closer than we think, though. Like, I don't think this is going to be a blowout by any means. Going to Mile High is very difficult.
We both want the Broncos to win, even though we picked the Patriots, just so the Patriots dynasty doesn't start right now.
Never again. All right. Then we got the NFC Championship game, the number 5 Rams at the number 1 Seahawks. I am going to go the Rams in this matchup. I think the Rams will be able to handle them, and I'm not sure Darnold is 100%, and that could be the difference in this game.
Oh,
I think they split in the regular season because of the helmet 2-point conversion that dinged off of someone's helmet, and Zach Charbonnet picked it up and got the 2 points, and then they won.
It is at home.
They've been less good at home, but they did just handle the 49ers, but the 49ers are a shell.
I feel weird about it, but I'm going to take the Seahawks in this one.
So you got Mike Vrabel versus Sam Darnold. I feel like that's a me Super Bowl right there.
I've got 2 Mikes, Mike Vrabel and Mike McDonald in the Super Bowl with defensive mindsets and interesting offenses.
That is true, but they did hire good OCs, as far as I could tell, at least ones that they're comfortable with Josh McDaniels.
Yep.
But I will say that Darnold versus Vrabel, I don't know who I would want to win that because I had pounded the table for them for so long, saying one deserves a head coaching job, one deserves a starting quarterback job, and here I would be having to pick between my 2 children.
Well, on one hand, Vrabel would be funny because of the whole Titans situation. And on the other hand, I think Darnold should probably win this one because he might not get very many after this. So
I don't think the Seahawks disappear, though. I don't see any part of them that would disappear right now. Get some Torrey Horton back in that lineup.
It's a very difficult division.
It is. I do think the 49ers are getting really close to bottoming out and having to do more of a rebuild than they thought, but we will see. Because we didn't talk about Ayuk playing his last down with the 49ers, so they are going to have to rebuild their wide receiver core as well. A lot of fun things for the 49ers coming up, but the Rams are getting old when Stafford retires, and the Cardinals are never going to be good in our lifetime.
Well, yeah, we'll see. We'll see about the Cardinals. I mean, they at least fired their not so brilliant head coach. We'll see how that shakes out. But that does it for this episode of the Never Too Early Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you all for downloading or listening to this episode. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. Please leave us a comment and share the show. Every little bit helps.
You can find us on all podcasting apps by searching N2E Fantasy, and with our handle N2E Fantasy on all social media platforms. Please join our community and give us a follow. Until next time, take care of yourselves and remember, it's truly never too early for fantasy football. Thank you again.
Bye, everybody.